Welcome to this conversation with myself, Sarah Rose Bright, and my partner, Graham Waterfield, on the topic of making love last, keeping sex alive in long-term relationships. And so in a minute, I'm going to introduce us both, and then we're going to have a conversation about some of the things that can contribute to sex declining in long-term relationships. And then we're going to talk about some ways to keep sex alive in long-term relationships. And also, we're going to share a little bit as well about our upcoming retreats in October, the Making Love Retreat, which is a week-long retreat in October in Somerset. So we'll share a little bit about that towards the end. So starting to introduce ourselves. So Graham, would you like to go first?
Sure, why not? So, what I bring to our work together is I have a long background as a meditation, Tai Chi, yoga teacher, and that evolved over time into being a men's sexual energy mastery coach, where I teach men really how to experience their own body, their own sexual energy, their own pleasure in a more grounded, more heart-based, more loving way. And of course, we now work together in beautiful ways, supporting couples on that journey to connecting to each other through the hearts, clear communication, and really bringing our shared experiences into supporting other people. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And I'm Sarah Rose Bright, and I've been working as a love, sex, and intimacy coach for 15 years now. And I work with women and couples, helping them for women, helping them to access their sensuality, discover their power, come into their bodies, and discover their voices. And then for couples, helping them to create an intimate life with depth and meaning, and one that can last in long-term relationships. And so it's a joy that we got together 7 years ago, and we've been on our own journey with intimacy. I really love people to know that we're not in this work because we had it all nailed and it was easy for us. We've both been on our individual journeys, previous partners, been through raising children, all sorts of different things. And, I got into this work because I had sexual challenges. I've experienced fresh ones at menopause. And so we speak from real experience. And so it's such a joy that 7 years in, we're now running days, retreats and courses for couples, and our one in October, the Making Love approach. So, yeah. So we wanted to talk about some of the factors that can contribute to sex declining in long-term relationships, because it's a real thing. So the topic of keeping sex alive in long-term relationships is a big one because it affects so many people. And we just wanted to start by giving a sense of some of the things that can impact sex in long-term relationships, because what we see is that when sex isn't working in relationships, couples can feel like it's either them individually that's the problem, or it's their relationship is the problem, and don't associate it with the many things that are happening in their lives. So for example, stress and exhaustion, parenting, caregiving, body image changes is another common one, aging, menopause, childbirth, hormonal shifts, going on medications, feeling disconnected from yourself for all sorts of different reasons that happen in life. There can be relational dynamics can come into play, lack of emotional connection, intimacy, vulnerability, resentments, unresolved tensions, traumas that are unresolved, conditioning about how sex should be, not talking about sex, or if we do talk about it, it creates tension, mismatch in desire, sex becoming routine and predictable, common challenges in sex, erections, orgasms, pain during sex, sexual patterning, not knowing what you want, or maybe feeling pressure, performance anxiety, focus on pleasing the other. I mean, we could just do a whole webinar just diving into each and every single one of those. But just wanted to give this as a backdrop to some of the really common things we see. But the one we really want to talk about is the model of sex that most of us learn. And so, how would you describe the model of sex that most of us learn, Graham?
I often talk about this on my man's training quite a lot. There's only two models. The model of pornography, which is, I think it affects maybe our generation onwards, maybe more than previous generations because of the availability of it. So that's one model which is performance. One of the big things also that I remember from school was it was just very mechanical. It was all about the science, the sperms, there's egg, there's the the biology, the chemistry, the physiology of the body. So if you look at both those models, it doesn't really celebrate genuine heartfelt emotion that we could call love, could we call connection. So we have two extremes, certainly as men, and it would be interesting to hear your experience around women on that as well. And so that leads into everything you've described: performance pressure, size of men, maybe size of penis, maybe longevity, on a film that they may have learned there's the cut, change the camera angles, there's possibly Viagra involved and all these other things. So we've got some ridiculous expectations. And because we have those ridiculous expectations, of course, everyone, maybe you see this on your women's training and with couples as well, but everyone has the expectation that therefore everyone else has it together, and they're the ones that can't perform, like on the movie that they've watched, or how they imagine their friends are experiencing sex and intimacy. So yeah, I would say they're the biggest ones we come across, and I guess that I come across as well.
Yeah. And I think that what you said there, so important to highlight, like the expectations that we have about how sex should be, like this perfect sex life that should really flow naturally, effortlessly, spontaneously, and should be perfect every time. And what I see is, like, if couples go out for dinner and dinner's not great that night, they don't say, right, I'm never going to have dinner again, or have a massive row about it. It's like, dinner just wasn't great that night. And so these huge expectations on sex are massive, and this sort of porn-based sex that we learn, but also I would say sex in the movies, because there's many people that haven't watched porn but have picked it up from just watching that hot sex scene in a movie where the couple just get together, clothes are ripped off, there's never any jeans getting stuck around the ankles, and it's all seamless, and then they come together, there's penetration if it's a heterosexual couple within seconds, the woman's fully aroused in seconds, and and this beautiful climax simultaneously, and then people compare themselves to that. And, never mind all the other factors that we've mentioned that come into long-term relationships, just the life factors. It's no wonder people struggle, and no wonder so many people see sex declining over time, because nobody's given us the skills, the education, the understanding to access anything different. And we call it like the goal-based sex, and we've got a masterclass on this if you want to look more into it, where we really break it down into all the different elements of it, like focusing on the goal, the fact that it's predictable, we're just repeating the same script again and again and again, we're also chasing that sort of heat and that hot sex. And often couples in long-term relationships are trying to do the type of sex that they experienced in the first couple of years, when life was much freer. They maybe didn't have kids and a house together, or a business, or whatever it is. And when the hormones were just flowing and the excitement was there, and they're trying to repeat that type of sex and wondering why it's not working 5, 10, 15 years into the relationship.
It's like I grew up on 90s, and I know that you used to love these because we watch them together sometimes, but I grew up on 90s romantic comedies, and the whole hour and a half of the film is, oh, they're falling in love, will they get together, oh no, she's gone to the airport, he runs to the airport, they finally get together, and they may have the scene where they make love for the first time, which is just as you describe. It's like exciting and passionate. They don't really, the romantic comedy doesn't on the whole, revisit them 3-4 years down the line, see if that is still operating in that way, which of course it wouldn't be, and in the traditional model of sex. And I guess that's what we might go on to talk about, that actually there's these much more sustainable models of sex and intimacy that actually our experiences, it can get better with time. It doesn't need to decline in that way.
Yeah, totally. And you've got the whole Disney fantasy. That's another one where everything goes off into the future and we never get to see the end result. And what we're sold as a solution is sex toys, new positions, kink, all sorts of different things. And not that there's anything wrong with any of those things, but they're sold as like a quick fix that might scratch a little itch and be exciting for a week or two, but it actually doesn't address the foundational issues with the model of sex that we learn. And this model of sex that we learn feeds into a lot of the things that I briefly mentioned at the beginning about feeling disconnected, lack of emotional connection, creating pain during sex can be part of it. All of these things can be fed by that traditional model as well. So, for us, we've found an approach which we've been exploring from day one, really, because we'd already were familiar with the work of Diana and Michael Richardson. So I'd really like to honor them at this moment, because there are teachers who've written a load of amazing books around the making love approach that they created 30 years ago. And, we've taken their approach as our core practice. We have other things as well, but it's absolutely the core practice. And we really have experienced in our relationship that it's supported us to navigate difficult times, stressful times when we could have easily got really disconnected, menopause, when I started to experience painful sex and my desire changed. And this approach has really helped us to sustain connection, but not just to sustain it, to grow it and deepen it. And so what would you say, and again, we've got a masterclass where you can watch a bit more of this in detail, but what would you say are sort of the key differences to the making love approach to how we mainly learn to do sex?
Yeah, so I mean, the clues in the title, in a way. You're making love, creating love. We could say that's on the chemical level, oxytocin, endorphin, all these kind of things that all trigger into what we call the parasympathetic nervous system, which is when we slow down, become more conscious. It brings all these other chemicals and faculties and body-based awareness online. And I often point to when I run a group, you can do anything in two ways. We're doing this with food at the moment. We're noticing that, when we don't watch a podcast and we eat, we slow down the food and it tastes much nicer. We tend to eat more healthily. We tend to eat less, instead of kind of gobbling it down as you go. And I suppose so. There's that you can eat unconsciously, where you're not actually, your body's eating, but your mind is elsewhere, and that can lead to indigestion. Doesn't make you feel good. I think you were sharing recently that you can release 30% less nutrients as well when you're eating in that way and not chewing as much, something like that.
30% less for 30% of the food doesn't get digested properly. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So if you think so, that's one way of eating. We could call that unconscious, unaware, and then that's more detrimental to our health, to our body. And so we could say sex is just the same. So you can have sex where perhaps your body is there, but your mind's off somewhere else, maybe in fantasy, maybe thinking about, I wonder when this will end because I'm not really enjoying it. Maybe it could be, I've had better sex in the past. Maybe it could be, the dishes need doing like after this or something like that. So the body is having sex, but the mind is elsewhere. And all we're really inviting is have mindful, present, if you like, sex. So actually be within the sexual experience. And And of course, the way of being in any experience is cut down all the static noise, enjoy the experience, be there. And we often point to just slowing down a bit, being present. But that isn't, we say it's just that, but our whole nervous system hasn't been programmed that way. We live in a busy society where the endless scroll on our phones, the stress of what's the next job, where's the money coming for the bill, all that stuff where we live outside of our bodies, and we've been trained to, spoke about porn and fantasy and stuff, and how we bring that into sex. So the way that this is different is we're just teaching people, and I say the word just loosely. It is very simple, but it takes training to be simple.
Yeah.
They say that's what mastery of anything is. It's making it simple again. And so, yeah, I guess we teach people to enjoy sex, to be there, to slow down, to connect through the heart, as opposed to the unconscious aspect of our being. I say, if I was trying to summarize it, I guess that's how I'd summarize it. How would you summarize this?
I really love that food analogy, because I use lots of food analogies, and it's just that slowing down and also savoring, each bite. Because in sex, we rush often, like you say, to the goal, to the end, or relax when we get to the end, rather than actually enjoy each morsel, each moment, each touch. And it's really present moment focused, enjoying the journey, not waiting till you get to the destination. And it is the difference between a sort of McDonald's and a beautiful gourmet, farm to table food, or whatever your favorite food is. And we relax in the experience. We wind down in the experience rather than use sex to wind down. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because that can be wonderful, but we're really relaxing. And it's, like you say, so in the body. And so that we are feeling ourselves from the inside out. And again, like you say, something our society doesn't cultivate. It cultivates the dominance of the mind, not the relationship with the body. And yet there is infinite worlds in the body available to us, and so much pleasure in the body. But when we just go from a linear ABC, we're missing out on this whole erogenous zone that is our full being, and what's possible where we drop in. And also we open to so much more intimacy, because we're meeting each other authentically and fully in the moment, not performing or doing what we think sex should be, but we are exploring, how do I be real in this connection? And, it might not have that heat necessarily of when we first meet, but it's still very passionate. And it's still got so many beautiful qualities, and it's got a depth to it, just like a meditation or a yoga practice or a musical practice, playing the guitar or whatever, that's just infinite. We never get to a place with this where we've ticked the box and like, yeah, I've done that. There's always more to learn, because the other part of this approach is we're really tuning into the subtleties of the intimacy and what we're feeling in our bodies. And so this making love approach, it is a practice. I mean, there's no culture of practice. I say this a lot when it comes to sex. We're meant to show up in the bedroom, put on the performance, but we would never expect a musical band or a theatre performance to do that. And this is, in a way, the approach that we teach is the opposite of everything we've learned. And actually, this is sex as a practice. And that might be that some days the practice goes really well and we just have an incredible experience. And then other days we're like, well, I got a bit stuck today, but we remain curious and we keep practicing, we keep exploring. And in busy lives, we need to get curious about, how do we drop into connection together? Because if we both meet in stress and exhaustion, it's going to really limit the experience that we can have. And so it's also one thing that's really important to mention about how to keep sex alive is redefining sex and intimacy. Because often couples use those words interchangeably, and one might be saying intimacy and mean sex, and the other might be saying sex and mean intimacy. And actually intimacy being a whole range of connection, from us having this conversation, we have intimate conversations, or a hug, or that sort of intimacy, or sharing about an idea. There's like intellectual intimacy, there's emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, having a lovely hug. And that actually our intimacy doesn't have to be about penetration every time. Even if you're not in a heterosexual partnership, often the goal is some form of penetration. And actually having more intimacy, because what happens, and it's really common, is the intimacy stops in relationships. And so couples drift apart because sex becomes a bit challenging. Maybe one person isn't enjoying it so much, they're experiencing pain, don't know what to say, or having erection problems and feeling failure or something around them. All these, there's so many examples we could give you that are so common. And then what happens is, or sex isn't happening as much as we'd like, or different levels of desire, or different desires. We have conversations about it, it gets a bit crunchy, so we avoid the conversations, and then we start to avoid cuddles and hugs and touch. And couples often share a visual of me sat on different ends of the sofa, or different chairs watching telly, or not even being together, going to bed at different times to avoid the other, because they don't want to get into an intimate state and have to navigate that, because again, nobody teaches us how to do this. And this approach totally gives us a whole range of new possibilities of how we can be with our sexuality, our sexual energy, and our shared erotic experience, and how to navigate that and redefine that. So there's much more available on the menu than just ending up in penetration. And if there is penetration, how that can be done in a totally relaxed, conscious, more aware way, that actually it doesn't even need to finish in orgasms and ejaculations. It might do, but it might not. Again, more choices. So yeah, anything else you'd like to add to that?
I was just contemplating really in this kind of more present type of love making. And I was just thinking how we have this word hot, or this adding on to, adding more spice, spicing things up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that person has a hot body, or that person's hot, or we have this kind of adding on to, like, I think you were speaking to this at the beginning of this conversation, or the point you were just making. And I guess what we're doing is a little revolutionary, because we're inviting people to find more pleasure in the more subtle, in the slightly cooler. And because one thing we find is that kind of that heat adding more flavor, more spice, it gets normal after a while, and then it's like, well, do we need a bit more spice or a new flavor? And in a way, we're inviting people back into the kind of finding. I was sat in the back garden a few days ago, enjoying my morning coffee, and all I was thinking about was all the stuff, the work I had to do that day. And for half an hour, I was like, why aren't I relaxed? It's the sun is shining, I have my morning coffee, and I'm just not enjoying the garden, not enjoying being here. And it took me about half an hour to realize I wasn't in the garden. I was in the rest of my day.
Yeah.
And so when I just paused and, drank my coffee, tasted my coffee, just looked around at the garden, suddenly I hear birds singing. They were singing the whole time and I didn't notice. Or suddenly, I noticed the flowers blowing in the breeze, and I see the bees gathering pollen, and all these beautiful things were right there in front of me beforehand. And I guess if I hadn't realized that, maybe my thought would have been, maybe we need a bigger garden. I'm not feeling peaceful in this garden. Maybe we need more trees. Maybe we need to move to a bigger house, because this garden just isn't doing it for me anymore. And so I guess it's that invitation back into the cooler, the more subtle, and finding there's a fullness in that. So yeah.
I love what you said before about simplicity, because we do live in a culture of more, bigger, better. And as many people realize over time, that doesn't fulfill us. It doesn't satiate our soul and our being. And this is a real stripping back. It's really an unlearning and a real, dropping into that simplicity. And, I've worked with couples and I've met couples on the retreats and things, who are like 40 years into the relationship and discovering they're having the best sex ever, and so it goes so against the grain of what we are taught and sold in a very consumerist culture. And so, so I hope this is just giving you a taste of a different approach, because often when couples come to work with us, we work with couples who are committed. They're couples that love and like each other. And it's often regularly they'll say, this is the missing piece. Sex and intimacy's just gone out the window, got stuck. Or they'll say, just got a sense there's got to be more to it than this. Or they know that they want to have a deeper intimacy with their partner, but they don't know how to get it. And that can be triggered by, often it can be like a new milestone, a big birthday, or an anniversary in the relationship, or menopause, or sometimes these things trigger it, or experiencing sexual issues. We've mentioned many of those. And, so it just helps a range of couples where they love and like each other. They want to make the relationship work, and they want to know how to bring this back online, or they want to deepen what they're already experiencing. And we even actually work with couples. We've worked with a number of couples who are just starting in relationship, who are saying, we don't want to repeat patterns of past relationships, and we want to. I worked with one couple recently, it was like 18 months into their relationship. It's like we're doing this now to like future proof our relationship, which I just think is wonderful. And so, we just see so many benefits, because it's like totally turning upside down your approach to sex, but it's also putting sex in a different place in your relationship. And it really supports the relationship. It supports more harmony, more connection, more love, all of these things. It's so deeply healing, this approach. I mean, when I had pain in sex at menopause, we practiced this approach even more, and the pain pretty much disappeared. It very rarely comes back now. And it helps, for example, people who aren't experiencing erections, men with erection issues. It can be a game changer because there's a practice called soft penetration, and how still can have lovemaking, taking the pressure off having to have a hard penis, which is what the sort of expectation is of man, yet puts huge pressure on, and man can have incredible pleasure with a semi or soft penis. It can heal body image stuff, just so many things it can, because sex, one of the things that we never talk about is how sex can be healing, and it can be so deeply healing. So deeply healing. I really want to do a webinar on that alone soon, because I think it's just something that we don't talk about enough. And it also brings us more into embodiment, more feeling, more sensation, more aliveness. And so this is a practice that ripples out into your life. A lot of people start to realize either how much stress they're carrying, and then start to proactively work with that, or it actually helps to de-stress them, because they're just noticing where there's a lot of tension in their bodies, and they're unwinding and breathing differently. So, that's some just wonderful benefits from this approach. And it also just helps with intimacy, because we bring in much more authenticity, vulnerability, different ways to communicate from the heart, which, couples have reported tension and arguments sort of reducing or disappearing from their relationship. And it also is really, it's the tools to just keep on exploring this. And it's, just a wonderful approach. Anything you'd like to add?
I love the when we slow down, it's, as you said, there's literally science behind this, that when we connect to our lover, just getting a hug, we know that is so good for the nervous system, the chemicals in the brain, our sense of self. So love making, with our partner is the next level of real physical connection, and all the science is in, that when you make love and you produce these more these more subtle neurochemicals, again, the oxytocins and all these, you're producing love and connection. And I used to, when I was teaching meditation more than I do now, I would say that meditation, like it's like being on holiday every day, because people go on holiday to feel good, to relax, oh, I don't have to think about work, or don't have to think about the dishes or what to cook tonight and all that. So generally people were going on a break from their own mind. And so there's nothing to think about, everything's laid on. So that's the experience of the holiday. And of course, if you go on holiday and you've got noisy neighbors, blowing up a lilo back in the day, and on the floor above you for 7 a.m, come home, you're not so relaxed because there's a lot more to think about. And so this is, again, it's like falling in love every day. It's creating a space for chemicals that actually bond you. And we see in our work, if a couple can have all the training in the world, they could have done a bachelor's degree in lovemaking, but if they're stressed and tired, and if they're not making space for feeling good, it's still hard to do that. And so this invitation is to create space in your life. Whether one of the reasons we go on retreat every year for our lovemaking retreat, and one of the reasons that we've brought this work to this country, is to give couples that space. It's like a lovemaking holiday and a reset, so they can take that back out into their lives. So yeah, when you make love in this way, you're reestablishing your relationship, you're reestablishing the love you have for each other. You're literally producing chemicals that bond you, that you feel bonded and connecting with each other. So yeah, I just felt like mentioning that as well.
Yeah, really, really important, and led us nicely on to talk about the retreat. So if this intrigues you, and we've piqued your curiosity with this, you can reach out. We do one-to-one work and or one-to-two work in couples. We do bespoke private retreats for couples. And what we also have is a retreat this October, the 20th to the 26th, in Pennard House, which is a beautiful Georgian manor in Somerset. We call it the ultimate couples retreat because this retreat has been going for 30 years and thousands of couples have been through this retreat, and the design's been cultivated over 30 years, and it works. We've done it many times ourselves as a couple, and like Graham's just said, we go every year as a gift to our relationship, because it is such a treat. It really is. And as Graham said so beautifully, it's just such a how it impacts your retreat. It's a reset for your intimate life, and time to be away from the busyness and the distractions of everyday life, to really be present to each other and your relationship. And what happens is, when there's that time to unwind and relax and drop in day by day by day, you're deepening over the week. Each day there's practice, which I'll share a little bit more about in the moment. And so that you really get to drop in and connect. By the end of, there comes a point in the retreat where you don't even know your phone exists anymore. You're so in the moment and so present, so that you really get to practice. We've got amazing food, rooms, and lounges, open fires. There's a maximum of 10 couples on the retreat to have a level of personal attention with it. And the retreat is for heterosexual couples because, one, we teach from our experience, but also it's very much about the male-female dynamic of penetration is a big part of the retreat. We've got other offers for people of different sexual orientation, so please reach out if you're interested around that. And each day, just to give you a sense of each day, is teachings on slow sex, the making love approach, and the love keys, which are the keys to help you drop into the experience and bring more awareness and simplify and connect. We do regular Qigong, which is like a moving meditation, movement and meditation, again, to help us calm down the mind, quieten down the mind, and become more and more present with ourselves. Because one of the core principles of the retreat is the more we're connected to ourselves, the more we can connect with another. And the more we drop in, the deeper the connection goes. So there's going to be practice time, which is really spacious, and all intimate practice is done in the privacy of your own room. And, you know, the practice is wonderful because it can be challenging. You know, as Graham said, it's so simple. And but it also can be challenging when we're exploring a different style of lovemaking. We might be, you know, we might be so used to the script that we don't know how to go off piste and be with the unknown, or we might find ourselves getting distracted, difficult to be present, not knowing what to do. And so this retreat gives you the time to really practice it, and also get, you know, because it's so easy in life to get distracted, but you've got some really beautiful time to really relax and connect, and you can get support through moving through the stuck places as well. So you have this whole week of practice. We are here to support you. So with the retreat, it's not a group process. So if you've done retreats before, you may be familiar with sharing circles where there's maybe a big sharing every day and everyone shares their experience. That's not what we do here. We create some space if couples choose to share and want to share. But you can come to the whole retreat and not speak to in the group or speak to another couple. You can just stay as in your little coupledom, because it is really about you as a couple. And, you know, we're here to support. So we're available at set times of the day. So if you're feeling stuck, you can come and get private support with Graham and I. And so it's really set up to be a really, really wonderful, magical week. And we know that it is because we've done it many times. So we have got 3 ensuite rooms left. And so if you're really interested in the retreat, reach out to us. We're really happy to have a chat with anybody to see if it feels like a good fit match for you at this time. We're really happy to arrange a chat. And if you want more information, have any questions, you can message us at hello@lovemakingretreats.com, and we'll put a link to the website as well in the notes below. Anything you'd like to add about the retreat?
It's such a full experience, and what I mean by that is, when I used to teach qigong, well, I used to, I still do every week. I don't know why I say used to, but I remember I say to people, you're getting 3 classes in one. You're getting physical exercise, you're getting breath work, and you're getting meditation all happening at the same time. And so this lovemaking retreat is all of those things. You're getting a week long, we get as well when we do this each year. It's like a week long. You get all the benefits as if you'd done a week long relaxation and meditation reset retreat. So you get more peaceful through the week, and then you come home and you feel recharged for months, you know, at least afterwards. And then you're given practices that you actually can do to sustain that feeling as well as you go home. So you've got all those benefits. You've got time away together, so it's the ultimate holiday. You know, on holiday you kind of, oh, we're away, let's like have loads of drink, let's overeat every night, and then you come back tired. And of course this isn't like that. This is time where you get to make love and have beautiful conversations and reset your nervous systems at the same time and together and over the same thing. So you're getting, I mean, a romantic getaway, like the ultimate romantic getaway for a week. You're getting, you know, there's space. We're in the countryside, so you'll get to have romantic walks if you want. You know, there could be that level of it. We do some very gentle, very mindful movement practices, so your body will feel even better when you come back after this week. You'll feel gently opened and relaxed, and it's just incredible. It's such a beautiful experience, which is why we do it every year. And so just to name that. And also the other thing is that some people, I guess, may be nervous about coming on a retreat like that, because it's like, oh my God, am I going to have to speak in front of a group? Is it all airy fairy? Will I have to buy beads? You know, you know, and it's none of those things. You know, this is the whole thing is just the space for for you as a couple to drop into the hearts again together and just kind of let go of all that stuff that we accumulate through life. So yeah, I hope we'll see some of you there.
And, you know, that reminds me, thank you so beautifully, is that we have a lot of fun. You know, we take this stuff so seriously. And actually, for a lot of couples, it can feel like just a heavy part of their relationship. And it's really our intention to bring some fun and lightness back to it and to be able to create a different energy around it. But I love what you shared. It's like multiple retreats in one. So I hope you can, you're interested, get in touch, book a place. You know, as I say, we've got 3 ensuite rooms left. And also, I hope this has inspired you, you know, just to see in this webinar the range of things that impact on long-term sex in long-term relationships. And that actually, maybe if you're thinking, well, what's wrong with us or me or them? And actually, you may have some different understanding of that now and know that there is another way to keep sex alive in long-term relationships. And hopefully it's inspired you, whether you come on a retreat with us, it might just inspire you to approach your intimacy in a different way. And so if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear how this has landed for you. So please put in the comments below as well. And other than that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you can find us at we'll put our details in the show notes, but my website is sarahrosebright.co.uk and Graham's is grahamwaterfield.com. Graham spelt with Graem, as you can see, ME, as you can see on the screen.
Graeme.
That's the one. I'm wishing you all a beautiful day. Lots of love.